Listen closely and hear these words as though God Himself is whispering directly into your soul this very moment. I need you to stop for a second, stop scrolling, stop worrying, stop pretending that the noise of the world can hide the truth, and hear me now. There is a force walking among us, moving unseen, operating under the mask of kindness, deception, and false smiles. There are people whose hearts have been poisoned by darkness, whose intentions are rooted in malice, envy, and destruction. If you do not learn how to discern them, if you do not awaken your spirit to God's divine wisdom, you will fall prey to their schemes. But today, I declare over your life, God will open your eyes. God will give you the spiritual sight to recognize the evil person, to protect your heart, to guard your mind, and to walk boldly on the path of righteousness, unshaken and unafraid. There are those among us who laugh in the daylight but carry darkness in their hearts. They may smile, they may shake, they may whisper sweet words, but inside they are plotting to bring harm. God has given you intuition, the quiet, persistent voice within your soul to recognize these hidden dangers. And I am here to tell you, do not ignore it. Do not silence it. The moments when your gut whispers a warning, when your spirit feels unrest in the presence of someone's charm or flattery, that is God speaking directly to you. That is God placing a shield around your heart, urging you to be vigilant, to walk in wisdom. Do not let the illusions of appearances deceive you. God sees what the world cannot see, and God desires that you too see with clarity, with discernment, with unwavering spiritual vision. An evil person is not always obvious. Sometimes they wear the garb of trustworthiness. Sometimes they drape themselves in the robes of loyalty. And sometimes they use words of love and concern as weapons to entrap you. Listen carefully, God does not want you to stumble because of your own innocence. God wants you to recognize the signs, to perceive the intentions hidden behind the words, to understand the subtle manipulations that prey on the unsuspecting. If a person consistently seeks to diminish your confidence, to create division, to stir confusion in your heart or in your mind, understand that these are not accidents and these are not misunderstandings. These are reflections of a heart moved by darkness. God is giving you discernment to protect, to walk in a way that honors your soul and God's plan for your life. Do not mistake evil for mere imperfection. Every human being makes mistakes. Every soul stumbles. But there is a difference between a flawed heart and a heart deliberately bent toward harm. The evil person thrives on manipulation, thrives on deceit, thrives on watching others stumble while they remain untouched. They are relentless in their pursuit of control. And yet, God is more relentless. Guarding your life, God's power surrounds you like a fortress. God's wisdom whispers into your ear when the night grows dark and the path is unclear. God will not abandon you. And I command you to hold on to this truth with all the strength in your being. No matter how clever, no matter how hidden, no matter how close they try to get to you, God's light exposes all darkness. The evil person will reveal themselves. God will shine clarity into every corner of their deception. And the moment you recognize them, the moment you name them in your spirit, you begin to reclaim power, strength, and authority over your life. You must learn to observe the patterns, the repetition, the hidden motives. Evil is rarely sudden, it is consistent, it is calculated, it is subtle. Look for the one who speaks but never acts with integrity, who makes promises they never intend to keep, who thrives on gossip, who rejoices in the failures of others. These are not coincidences, these are signs, and God has placed within you the ability to notice them. That flicker of discomfort you feel in their presence, that hesitation before trusting them fully, that inner voice warning you to proceed with caution, these are gifts from God. Do not ignore them. To ignore them is to walk blindfolded in a world that is often cruel. But to heed them is to walk armed with divine insight, clothed in God's protection, ready to navigate life with wisdom that others will envy but few will understand. I need you to hear me now. Recognizing evil is not about becoming fearful, it is about becoming strong. It is about empowering your spirit, fortifying your heart, and walking boldly in the truth that God has planted within you. Evil seeks to sow fear, doubt, and confusion, but God plants courage, clarity, and confidence. The evil person will try to shake your faith, but your faith is a fortress. Your awareness is a shield. Your vigilance is a sword. And God is the source of all of this. Every moment you pause to Every moment you assess the intentions of those around you, every moment you refuse to be naive in the face of manipulation, God is affirming that your life matters, that your soul matters, and that you have the right to walk safely and triumphantly in this world. Do not underestimate the power of spiritual observation. God is not asking you to become suspicious of everyone. God is asking you to become discerning. To discern is to see the layers beneath the surface. It is to understand. Anticipate schemes to detect falsehoods before they manifest in your life. An evil person will always try to draw you into chaos, to tempt you into reactions that cloud your judgment, to provoke you into compromising your peace. God's wisdom teaches you to pause, to reflect, to respond rather than react, to maintain a spirit that is untouchable by manipulation. You are not helpless, you are not naive. God has given you the tools, and it is your responsibility to use them. Understand. Evil person often seeks to isolate you, to separate you from support, to manipulate your relationships, and to weaken your sense of purpose. They will whisper lies to undermine your confidence. They will create illusions of betrayal. They will prey on your vulnerabilities. But God is your refuge, your strength, and your anchor. When you feel shaken by the actions of another, look to God. When doubt arises in your heart, turn to God. When confusion clouds your mind, seek God's clarity. To you, God will reveal the truth in time. God will expose the heart of the one who walks in darkness. God will protect you, guide you, and ensure that you never face their schemes alone. It is vital to remember that identifying evil is not a call to hatred, it is a call to wisdom. God does not command us to hate. God commands us to see clearly, to walk in integrity, to maintain peace, and to safeguard the sanctity of our lives. Evil cannot thrive in the presence of clarity. Operate where light shines, and when God illuminates the truth, when your heart is strengthened, when your mind is sharpened, you become untouchable. You are not reacting in anger, you are walking in divine intelligence, in alignment with God's will, in obedience to a higher truth that protects your soul and honors your spirit. The evil person will often test you. They will try to provoke you to anger, to jealousy, to despair. They will attempt to manipulate your emotions, to cloud your judgment, to tempt you into decisions that stray from God's plan. But you, beloved of God, are stronger than their schemes. God's spirit within you is more powerful than any human design. When you feel the pull of confusion, the tug of deception, the shadow of manipulation, pause, reflect. Seek God's insight, and in that pause you reclaim your power. In that pause you regain clarity. In that pause you walk in victory because you are following God, not the chaos of the world. I say to you now, your life is precious, your spirit is sacred, and God has placed you here for a purpose. No evil person, no matter how cunning, no matter how patient, no matter how persuasive, can derail the plan God has for you. They may try to delay your blessings, they may try to cloud your vision, they may attempt to discourage you, but God's plan is unstoppable. God's vision for your life is immutable. And when you learn to spot the evil person, to guard your heart, to walk with discernment and courage, you step into a destiny that is protected, guided, and empowered by the Almighty. Learn to trust your intuition. It is God-given. Learn to read the signs. That is God's teaching. Learn to protect your peace. It is God's command. And remember this, God's light always exposes darkness. Every mask is eventually removed. Every hidden motive is eventually revealed. Every deception is eventually unveiled. The evil person cannot hide from God's truth, and neither can they persist in harming a life. Walks in alignment with God's wisdom. Do not be afraid to confront reality. Do not be afraid to name what is wrong. Do not be afraid to protect yourself spiritually, emotionally, and mentally. God did not create you to be a victim of manipulation. God did not create you to be blind to the hearts around you. God created you to walk in clarity, to act with courage, to live with purpose, and to thrive with divine protection surrounding you. The journey of recognizing evil is not easy yet. It requires patience, courage, observation, and faith. But every step you take in vigilance is a step taken under God's guidance. Every moment you pause and reflect is a moment where God fortifies your spirit. Every choice you make to maintain integrity and distance from harm is a choice that aligns you with God's plan. You are not walking this path alone. God walks with you. God strengthens you. God illuminates the way. And God will ensure that you emerge victorious, unscathed, and empowered. beyond what you ever imagined. The evil person thrives on secrecy, thrives on confusion, thrives on distraction. But you, child of God, are called to light, to truth, to clarity. Let your heart be guided by divine wisdom. Let your mind be sharpened by discernment. Let your soul be fortified by faith. And in doing so, you will not merely survive, you will thrive. You will not merely endure, you will conquer. You will not merely see, you will understand. You will not merely exist, you will walk. Boldly knowing that God is your shield, your fortress, your source of strength, and your ultimate guide. Every relationship you enter, every person you encounter, every situation that challenges your peace, bring it to God. Seek guidance. Pray for clarity and watch as God opens your eyes, sharpens your perception, and strengthens your heart. You will begin to notice the patterns that once eluded you. You will sense the manipulations that once confused you. You will feel the heart once hid behind sweet words, and you will respond not in fear, not in anger, not in despair, but with divine wisdom, spiritual power, and unwavering confidence that God has placed within you. I declare to you today, you will no longer be naive. You will no longer be misled. You will no longer allow the evil plans of others to take root in your life. God is raising a generation of discerners, of warriors, of spiritually vigilant beings who see with clarity, act with wisdom, and live in divine protection, and you are part of this generation. Your eyes have been opened, your heart is being strengthened, your spirit is being prepared. The evil person may come with charm, with flattery, with cunning, but God's wisdom surpasses all cunning. The evil person may try to deceive, manipulate, or corrupt, but God's truth is absolute. The evil person may plot, scheme, and strategize, but God's plan is eternal, unstoppable, and perfect. And when you align with God's truth, when you walk in discernment, when you live under God's protection, the evil person's schemes crumble, they fail, they are exposed, they are powerless against the divine wisdom and strength that God has placed within you. Now is the time to awaken. Now is the time to strengthen your spirit. Now is the time to claim the wisdom God has given you. Look around, observe, and discern. Ask God to reveal what is hidden. Ask God to illuminate hearts. Ask God to protect your life from harm. And as you do, you will see the evil person for who they truly are, not through fear, not through suspicion, but through divine insight and spiritual clarity. You will no longer be a victim. You will no longer be deceived. You will no longer be caught off guard. You will walk boldly, protected, empowered, and unstoppable. Your life, your spirit, your destiny are too precious to be compromised by darkness. God has given you eyes to see, ears to hear, and a heart to discern. Guard them, trust them. Light always reveals darkness. God's truth always exposes deceit. God's power always protects the faithful. And as you walk in vigilance, in faith, in courage, you will discover a freedom, a strength, and a clarity that evil can never touch. I say this with authority, with conviction, with unwavering faith. The evil person can hide, they can scheme, they can whisper, they can plot, but they cannot escape God. And you, child of God, walking in God's truth, walking in God's wisdom, walking in God's, He will not be harmed. You will recognize, you will discern, you will act wisely, you will live boldly, you will triumph. And every attempt of evil to harm you will only serve to highlight the power of God working in your life. You must understand that the evil person is not always loud. Sometimes they are quiet. Sometimes they blend into the background, waiting for the perfect moment to strike, waiting for a crack in your faith, waiting for a shadow of doubt to take root in your mind. God is calling you to sharpen your spiritual awareness, to attune your senses to the subtle vibrations of dishonesty and malice that others cannot detect. God wants you to see beyond the surface, to pierce through the facades of charm and pretense, and to recognize the intentions that lurk in hidden hearts. This is not paranoia. This is spiritual vigilance. This is walking in alignment with God's wisdom, with your eyes open and your heart protected. An evil person thrives on fear. They fly.
Feed on confusion, they flourish when integrity is compromised. But you, beloved of God, have been given something stronger than fear, divine insight.
A force that cannot be bribed, deceived, or manipulated. Deceived or manipulated, deceived or manipulated. Listen to it. Do not silence it with rationalizations or excuses. The voice of God within you is louder than any scheme, stronger than any. deception, and infinitely more reliable than the lies of men. Every time you honor that voice, every time you trust that instinct, you are walking under the protection of God, and no evil can touch you. You may ask, how can I be sure? How can I discern when the world is full of masks, when people hide behind words, smiles, and feigned loyalty? The answer is simple but profound. Watch the fruits of their actions. God's wisdom teaches us that the character of a person is revealed not in what can they say, but in what they consistently do. An evil person leaves a trail subtle, sometimes imperceptible, but unmistakable to those who are spiritually awake. They sow division, they spread whispers, they manipulate emotions, and they celebrate the failures of others in secret. Watch closely. Observe patterns, reflect on intentions, and above all, bring it to God. Seek guidance. Pray for discernment. God will reveal what your eyes alone cannot see. God will illuminate the truth, even in the darkest of human hearts. Remember this, the evil person often disguises themselves as an ally, as a supporter, as a friend. They will flatter, they will console, they will make you feel safe, but safety in their presence is an illusion. Trust is not given blindly. Trust is earned through integrity, through consistency, and through alignment with truth. And God wants you to walk with a heart that discerns the difference. If something feels off, if your spirit recoils even slightly in discomfort, do not ignore it. That is God's guidance. That is divine protection. That moment of unease is a warning bell ringing in your soul, and it is your duty to heed it. An evil person may attempt to manipulate your perceptions, twisting reality, reframing your experiences, and creating doubt where there should be clarity. They may gaslight you, question your judgment, or make you second-guess your instincts. But God is your ultimate judge and your ultimate guide. God's insight is perfect, unerring, immediate. When you consult God, when you seek the light of divine wisdom, all confusion falls away. You see clearly, you act decisively, you no longer stumble in shadows, you no longer allow deception to take root. You are armed with truth, and truth is the weapon against all darkness. Do not forget that the evil person often uses relationships as their battlefield. They attempt to divide, to isolate, to turn friends, family, and allies against you. They whisper lies, they manipulate emotions, and they plant seeds of doubt where loyalty should thrive. But God is the overseer of every connection, the guardian of every heart, and the protector of every bond that is meant to flourish. When you place your trust in God, when you seek God's guidance in every interaction, no scheme of division can succeed. God's plan will prevail. God's wisdom will guide your steps. And the evil person's attempts will ultimately serve to strengthen your resolve, sharpen your insight, and reveal to the power walking faithfully under God's protection. It is crucial to understand that evil is patient. It does not always strike immediately. Sometimes it waits, observes, and tests. It probes weaknesses and studies patterns before making a move. But God is infinitely more patient and infinitely more powerful. God sees every plot, hears every whisper, and knows every hidden intention. No evil can escape divine observation. No scheme can outmaneuver God's plan. And when you align yourself with God, when you cultivate awareness, when you live in faith, you are shielded from every subtle attack. The evil person may try, but they cannot succeed. God has made a way for you, and God has fortified your spirit. You must also recognize that evil often seeks to feed on your own insecurities. They observe your fears, your doubts, your vulnerabilities, and they strike where it hurts most. But God has placed within you a strength that is beyond human understanding. Your worth is not defined by the judgments of others. Your destiny is not limited by the intentions of the wicked. Every fear you face, every doubt you encounter, every subtle attempt to weaken you, God is already turning into a testimony of strength, wisdom, and triumph. The evil person may try to manipulate, but God has already decreed victory in your life. You are protected. You are guided, you are empowered. God's guidance is not abstract, it is practical. It teaches you to read behavior, to watch actions, to listen, to perceive intentions. An evil person often thrives on secrecy and manipulation, but they cannot withstand scrutiny and divine insight. Observe how they treat others, how they respond to responsibility, how they act when they believe no one is watching. The truth will always emerge. God will reveal it. And when you align with God's insight, when you cultivate vigilance, when you walk with awareness, you will no longer be caught off guard. You will no longer be deceived. You will walk in divine authority. It is essential to understand that confronting evil is not about revenge. It is about wisdom, protection, and alignment with God's plan. You are not called to respond with malice, anger, or hatred. You are called to walk in clarity, to protect your heart, to maintain peace, and to honor God's guidance. When the evil person attempts to manipulate or deceive, you respond not with impulsive emotion, but with measured discernment. You act with integrity. You maintain composure. You allow God's light to expose the truth while you remain steadfast, calm, and unshaken. This is the power of spiritual authority even to those who walk in alignment with God. The evil person may seek to destroy, but they cannot destroy what God has fortified. They may try to harm, but they cannot reach what God has protected. They may whisper lies, but they cannot obscure what God has revealed. You are armored in faith, shielded by wisdom, by insight, and empowered by divine protection. Every step you take in vigilance strengthens your spirit. Every moment you pause to reflect sharpens your discernment. Every prayer you offer aligns your soul with God's plan. And in this alignment, the evil person's influence evaporates. They become powerless, ineffective, and exposed. Beloved, I urge you to embrace this awareness not as a burden, but as liberation. To see evil is not to live in fear, it is to live in freedom. Freedom from deception, freedom from manipulation, freedom from harm. God has given you eyes to see, a heart to discern, and a spirit to resist the attacks of darkness. When you recognize evil, when you protect your heart, when you act with wisdom and faith, you are not merely surviving, you are walking in the fullness of God's plan. You are stepping into a destiny fortified by divine insight. You are walking boldly, empowered, and unstoppable. The evil person often attempts to disguise selfish motives as malice as care, manipulation as friendship, but God's wisdom teaches you to look deeper. Do not be satisfied with appearances. Observe patterns, watch consistency, and measure actions against truth. Ask God for clarity, seek God for guidance, and watch as the illusions are stripped away, revealing intentions that were never honorable. God will provide you with understanding that transcends logic and observation, a divine vision that pierces the veil of deception and allows you to see. You must also recognize that evil thrives on distraction. It seeks to divert your focus from your purpose, from your path, from your connection with God. It tries to entangle your mind in confusion, your heart in conflict, your spirit in doubt. But when you remain anchored in God, when you prioritize divine guidance over worldly impressions, you cannot be shaken. The evil person may create storms, but they cannot overturn the foundation that God has laid within you. Your faith is your fortress, your awareness is your shield, and your discernment is your weapon. And finally, remember this: every encounter with evil is an opportunity to strengthen your spirit, to sharpen your insight, to deepen your connection with God, and to walk more fully in divine protection. Every act of manipulation, every whisper of malice is an invitation for you to exercise the wisdom, courage, and vigilance that God has placed within you. God does not leave you defenseless. God does not abandon you to the schemes of the wicked. God equips you with insight, foresight, and spiritual authority. And when you walk in this truth, when you act with awareness, when you live with faith, the evil person's power over you diminishes to nothing. The journey of understanding how to spot an evil person is not about living in suspicion, it is about living in divine awareness. God never intended for you to move blindly through life, trusting every smile, every promise, or every kind word that is spoken in your direction. The world is filled with hearts that are still searching for light, and among them are those who carry shadows inside themselves. But God has placed within you the ability to move wisely, to walk carefully, and to choose connections that nurture your spirit rather than drain it. The true believer is not one who fears humanity, but one who understands humanity through the wisdom that God provides. You are not called to isolate yourself in fear. You are called to move through life with spiritual intelligence, with a heart anchored in God, and with a mind sharpened by divine understanding. An evil person often reveals themselves through their discomfort with your growth. Pay attention to those who change their behavior when you begin to succeed, those who suddenly grow silent when blessings enter your life, and those who subtly attempt to diminish your achievements through sarcastic remarks, disguised criticism, or God rejoices when you rise in purpose, but darkness becomes restless when light begins to shine. If someone cannot celebrate your progress sincerely, if their joy appears forced when you succeed, then you are not the one. Then God is showing you a sign that their heart may not be aligned with Goodness, a heart guided by God, celebrates truth, celebrates justice, and celebrates the success of others without bitterness or envy. Observe how people react when they are challenged. An evil person often reveals when their authority is questioned or when their plans are disrupted. They may respond with anger disproportionate to the situation, or they may attempt emotional manipulation to regain control. God teaches patience, humility, and justice, but the heart touched by darkness often seeks dominance rather than understanding. When you encounter such behavior, do not be provoked into reacting with the same energy. Stand firm in God's wisdom. Speak with calm authority. Maintain your peace. Let your peace be a testimony that your spirit belongs to God's protection. Understand also that evil can sometimes present itself as excessive dependency. There are individuals who attempt to bind your emotions to their approval, making you feel that your worth depends on their validation. This is a subtle but dangerous form of spiritual and emotional manipulation. God never created you to live chained to the approval of another human being. Your value is established by God alone. How your choices to guilt, fear, or emotional pressure, recognize that this is not love. True love, as guided by God's wisdom, liberates the soul, strengthens independence, and encourages spiritual and personal growth. Pay close attention to those who speak about others constantly but become uncomfortable when their own behavior is examined. The tongue of an evil person often reveals the state of their heart. Gossip is not simply conversation, it is a weapon used to damage reputations and spread confusion. God values truth, integrity, and sincerity. When someone spends their time constructing narratives about others rather than reflecting on their own actions, they are engaging in a form of self-deception. It is a signal that their heart may be clouded by negativity. Walk away from environments where gossip is celebrated, because such environments slowly poison the spirit and weaken the soul. You must also learn to observe consistency between private behavior and public presentation. An evil person maintains a carefully constructed image for the world while behaving differently in hidden moments. God sees what is hidden. God hears what is unspoken. God knows what occurs when no human eye is watching. Therefore, do not be impressed by public admiration alone. Look deeper. Look at how a person treats the weak, how they speak when they believe no one is listening, and how they behave when their advantage is guaranteed. Character is revealed in darkness, not in the spotlight. There will be moments when God removes certain people from your life and you may feel confusion or sadness. Do not mistake divine protection for loss. Sometimes God distances you from individuals whose hearts carry hidden intentions. What you may perceive as abandonment may actually be protection in disguise. Trust that God knows the future that you cannot see. Trust that God's timing is perfect even when your emotions are uncertain. When one door closes, it is not necessarily punishment, it may be guarding you away from harm and toward a destiny that is aligned with your true purpose. Never underestimate the spiritual danger of someone who pretends to care deeply while secretly celebrating your downfall. These individuals are often skilled at emotional camouflage. They may offer comfort during difficult times, but their comfort may be designed to gain information, build dependency, or create emotional leverage. God teaches that sincerity is reflected in consistent compassion, not kindness. Watch how a person behaves when you are strong, when you are weak, when you are absent, and when you are present. True character remains stable across all circumstances. The evil person often fears exposure. When truth begins to approach, when questions are asked, when transparency is demanded, their behavior may shift. They may become defensive, hostile, overly defensive, or attempt to redirect attention elsewhere. Do not be intimidated by such reactions. God is the ultimate source of truth, and truth has no reason to hide. Stand calmly in wisdom. Do not rush. Do not accuse without clarity. Allow God's light to uncover what is concealed. You must also guard against those who rush your decisions. Evil often operates through pressure. They will tell you that you must decide immediately, that there is no time to think, that hesitation is weakness. But God gives wisdom through patience. God's guidance is not chaotic or rushed. When you feel pressured into making life-altering choices without reflection, step back, pray, reflect, seek God's clarity. A decision made under pressure often serves the interest of the manipulator, not the will of God. Understand that the strongest weapon against evil is not anger, but spiritual stability. When your emotions are controlled by truth rather than provocation, you become difficult to manipulate. The evil person desires reactions because reactions reveal vulnerabilities. But when you remain composed, thoughtful, and grounded in God's guidance, their power diminishes. Calmness is not weakness, it is spiritual authority expressed through discipline and faith. God is teaching you to build an inner sanctuary where manipulation cannot survive. This sanctuary is formed through prayer, reflection, wisdom, and awareness. When your heart belongs to God, when your mind is guided by truth, and when your spirit is anchored in divine purpose, the noise of deception loses its influence over your life. Never forget that. The evil person may appear successful, influential, or socially accepted. Do not measure truth by popularity. God's truth is not determined by crowd opinion. Many voices may support deception if it benefits them temporarily. But divine truth remains constant, even when the world refuses to acknowledge it. Stand with God's truth even if you stand alone, because history has always proven that truth eventually prevails over deception. When you walk with awareness, you may sometimes feel lonely, because many people prefer comfort over clarity. But understand this: loneliness in truth is better than companionship in deception. God walks with those who seek honesty, righteousness, and wisdom. You are never truly alone when your heart is aligned with God's purpose. Let your life become a testimony that evil cannot easily penetrate. Let your behavior reflect patience, kindness, and strength simultaneously. Do not respond to darkness with darkness, because darkness multiplies when fed by. Instead, respond with wisdom, distance yourself from harmful influences, and trust God's judgment over human revenge. The future belongs to those who are spiritually awake. The future belongs to those who can distinguish between sincerity and manipulation, between truth and falsehood, between genuine love and disguised selfishness. God is raising you to be someone who walks with open eyes and a strong heart. Listen carefully to this final declaration. If there is an evil person plotting your peace, God is already aware. If there is deception surrounding your path, God is already preparing your protection. If there is hidden hostility directed toward your life, God is already unveiling the truth in ways you may not yet understand. You are not walking into darkness, you are walking under God's light. Carry this message in your heart. Wisdom is your shield, faith is your foundation, and God is your protector. Move through life with awareness, but do not carry fear. Move, but do not carry hatred. Move with clarity, but do not surrender your compassion. Because the greatest victory over evil is not destruction, it is living a life so grounded in God's light that darkness cannot survive in your presence. And when the day comes that you clearly see the evil person for who they are, do not celebrate their fall. Instead, stand silently in gratitude, knowing that God has protected you. Walk forward with dignity. Continue your purpose. Continue trusting God with your destiny, because every step taken in faith is a step taken under divine guardianship. Remember always, God sees. God will never abandon the heart that walks in truth. Beloved, as we come to the close of this message, hear me clearly. Recognizing the evil person is not a call to fear, suspicion, or hatred. It is a call to awaken, to walk in divine wisdom, and to live under the full protection of God. God has placed within you to see, the heart to discern, and the spirit to resist every hidden scheme, every subtle manipulation, and every plan that seeks to harm your peace. The journey of vigilance is not easy, but it is necessary, and it is filled with God's guidance, God's protection, and God's unwavering truth. Let this truth settle deep within your soul. No darkness can overcome the light that God has placed inside you. No deception can succeed when your life is anchored in divine awareness. No evil can withstand the clarity, strength, and wisdom that God provides. Walk boldly, walk carefully, walk faithfully, knowing that God is your shield, your refuge, your guide, and your ultimate protector. Every attempt to harm you becomes an opportunity for God to reveal truth, for you to grow in discernment, and for your spirit to shine even brighter.